Today, I'd like to continue taking a look at the Dobbs decision by the Supreme Court, a recent decision that said that there is no constitutional right to an abortion, but that decision should be decided by the states. Uh, this decision met with a lot of controversy and led to a lot of discussion, particularly with the idea that this had been established as a right since 1973. Now, 49 years later, it's not a right, so that there was a lot of discussion with regard to it. And taking a look at it, it raises a number of questions for us, which we have taken a look at in previous videos. Today, I'd like to talk about how we engage with people who feel differently than us. With any issue like this, where there is controversy, where there is a side that says women should have this right, and when there's another side that says no, the child comes first, life is growing within the womb, that must be respected. So you have these two sides, and so there's a huge difference, a gap between them, and people will say, well, what do we do? How do we bring people together? How do we discuss things when we feel so differently? And so many times it can lead to arguments and screaming matches and vilifications and, you're a murderer and you're terrible, you're taking my rights away. And boom, all this on both sides. So, how do we engage? Well, basically to listen, first of all, obviously, but to affirm what makes sense in their position. So you want to look at their position. You want to, first of all, allow them to explain it as fully as possible, not to interrupt them, but to, maybe ask some questions just so you can get a better sense of what their position is. So someone who says that, I feel badly because this decision is taking away women's rights. Certainly, what we want to affirm in that position is that women do have important rights, and we must respect their rights. But then try to lead into a discussion of, well, is there any other party in this situation who would have rights? And so certainly the father would have rights in this discussion, and the baby growing within has rights as well. So to try to affirm the importance of rights, but then getting into a discussion of, well, how do you balance out all these various rights certainly would be an approach that one could take in the discussion. And again, in a respectful way, listening to the points that they're making, and certainly the rights are important. Their human rights are important, and for many years, women have had no rights or limited rights. So a lot of women are certainly coming from that aspect. And when you add into it the dynamic of the Catholic Church, our position on women's rights many times, has not been that strong, to say the least. The contribution of women have not been valued on the same level as the contribution of men, and still in many ways that is the case. So again, having that discussion, affirming the rights of women, certainly all this would be extremely important to do in the discussion. So having that discussion and really looking at the things that make sense, and really the important thing here is to show that we really care about people, that we have compassion, that we're kind, that we're not cold-hearted, that we don't turn our back on women who are in difficult situations. And certainly trying to see the importance of our position as well too in terms of the child. Well, this child is growing. The child starts out, within the womb. The initial conception, but then there is growth, and we have to affirm that life comes forth from that. So again, having that discussion, trying to look at both sides of the issue, but to do it in a way that shows, well, we care about the woman, we care about her situation, and we care about the child, and we care about that development as well. So establishing a caring atmosphere, and certainly in the discussion, if we demonstrate a care for the women, that might be an opening for a care for the child growing within. So again, doing this in a patient way, a kind way, a loving way, is very important. And this certainly has to be a approach that we take in a very difficult circumstance where there is controversy. Another aspect that is key in this discussion is what we call engaged fatherhood. So how are the fathers being involved in this decision? Certainly, in many cases, the father is left out of the equation completely. And so saying, well, have we tried to contact the father? What is the father's response? All of that certainly would be a very important part of the discussion. A lot of times, fathers are left out and fathers feel bad. One actual case that I dealt with in this situation is instructive, I think, in this regard. A woman I did some counseling with had 3 children and conceived a fourth, and really felt that this could be a deal breaker in terms of the marriage. They were under a lot of stress financially. It was difficult paying bills as it was, and the potential mother here, the mother of the child to be, was like, well, this could be a terrible thing if I tell my husband that I'm pregnant. He might leave me. It might be too much stress for him, and she worried about it. So she unfortunately made the decision. Certainly before she came and spoke with me, she made the decision to end this pregnancy. Later on, after all this happened, things settled a bit. A couple of years later, she had a discussion with the husband, and she shared this with him. She felt very burdened by this. It was one of those situations where she definitely needed healing from the guilt that she felt. She did this with the utmost reluctance. She was certainly supportive of the position that this was life, and she felt very badly about it. So she shared it with the husband, and the husband then said to her, "Gee, I would have welcomed a fourth child." So again, the shock that she felt from that was like, and this of course intensified the guilt that she felt that she had made a bad decision, and so it can create a lot of difficulty where there is no engaged fatherhood. So again, circumstances vary widely in this, but the importance of the role of the male certainly is significant in this. And we will continue in further videos to explore the complexities of this situation.